Hey guys, it's David Pingree out here at Cahuilla Creek Raceway today with a really cool race shop build. This is a 22 CRF Honda 450, and I kind of wanted to take an angle on this thing, a little bit of a minimalist. Let's not go too crazy. If I was gonna go take this thing racing, what do I need to do to really set it up for me and make it work right? As far as the engine goes, this Honda makes so much power, as do most of the 450s. It's really not a matter of building more horsepower into the thing. I put an exhaust on it just because I think that it sounds better, it lightens it up a bit, and it does bring a little bit more power across the board, kind of smears it out a little bit. So Pro Circuit exhaust, tie 6 on this thing, and that's all we did for performance in terms of the engine. I will say that there's one other thing I'll talk about that we did that does change that character. But it's nice on this bike, having a couple of maps to bounce between, traction control, kind of gives you some options depending on where you're at, the type of dirt, and things like that. So the motor on this thing, stock, bone stock, and it's plenty. Really on the Honda, there's a character in the handling of it that can be a little surprising at times. Like you'll think it's gonna do one thing and it'll kind of come out from under you and do something different. And so I really wanted to address that, and how can I soften that up and quiet that down? So we went to Pro Circuit for the suspension setting. They're still not recommending a link arm for me on this thing. We just did revalving for me, and it was very similar to what I did last year on the 21. I really liked that, so we kind of mimicked that. And then I went to FCP for just some engine mounts, which again, just sort of soften it as you start to enter a turn, lets it kind of drop in a little easier. So that was it. That's all we did for chassis. The rest of it's really just some bolt-on stuff, which you wouldn't have to do. But we were trying to, again, keep it on a budget. So I've got a handful of works connection parts, bar clamps, chain adjuster blocks, which I really like the chain adjuster blocks, you know, the aftermarket ones, because that stock one, man, it doesn't feel really accurate. If you ever use a proper tool to really measure center of the axle to a center of the swing arm pivot, those hash marks aren't super accurate a lot of times. So I like the aftermarket ones for that reason. We've got a recluse clutch on this thing. Again, a works connection, little plug in that. I did Flow foot pegs, and I had never used any of Flow's stuff before, so I was really intrigued to see how this stuff worked. Pegs look great. They do make tie pegs. This is their aluminum peg that has kind of threaded in little studs. They're sharps. We also got a Flow chain and sprocket. And for the chain, we went back and forth about whether we do an O-ring chain or just their standard chain. And the standard in the past has always been, you don't ever, for motocross applications, you don't ever use an O-ring chain. It has more drag, even though it will go much longer. For off-road guys, it's kind of the gold standard. For moto, it was never really something we used. So we decided to try the O-ring chain, and I wanted to see, I've done this once before where I had a bike, a 450, that just, the power delivery came on a little too strong, a little too aggressive for me. I wanted to kind of smooth that delivery out. And I thought, I wonder if going to like a heavier chain, an O-ring chain would kind of smooth that out. So that's what we put on here, and I wanted to see if that would help, because the Honda is one of those bikes, especially in an aggressive map, where it just comes on really strong. And at times, especially when you're tired or if there's really good traction, it's hard to control that thing. So I was anxious to see what that does. As far as controls, we went with Phoenix handlebars and grips, and super impressed with the delivery of this stuff. Those guys shot it out right away. It comes in a really nice packaging. The grips come with wire to tie them on. I was super impressed with the delivery of it. You know, sitting on it, they have different heights, but all of their bars have the same sweep and kind of bend. So it was a little bit different the way they do that. And then as far as the aesthetic, we did backyard designs. I sent them, hey, I really like this kind of Honda wing logo. Can we do something with that and these colors? And they just knocked it out of the park. First try, didn't change anything, and I think it looks awesome. We matched that with a seat concept seat, and this is a complete seat. If you've never ridden with one of their seats, you don't know what you're missing. I would have laughed if you just told me this a couple years ago, but they make their own foam, they have their own setup, and it is such a comfortable seat. Doesn't matter if you're riding adventure, snowmobiles, side by side, they make the best stuff. So really, I kind of know what I'm getting into with this seat. And then I want to talk about the wheels too, because this was another really cool project. If you want to make your bike look different, or maybe you just have beat up wheels and you're looking to update them, but a whole new set of wheels is tough. We went to the boys at Faster USA, calling in the guys. They'll take your stock hub, they do a coating, I think it's Cerakote on the hub, so we just did black. They used my stock hoop, which was still in good shape. We used the stock nipples. So all he did was coat the hub and put black spokes in and then assemble it. So for a very, very affordable price, I had a wheel set that looks awesome, fully murdered out, looks brand new, and you can get into that very affordably. So go talk to the guys at Faster USA if you're in the market for something like that. They do an awesome job. And then we mounted up my favorite tires, Dunlop 53 front with a 33 rear. So on the track, first thing I wanted to pay attention to is handling. I'm always blabbing on about balance, and right away it was balance. I think kind of already having used this kind of setup last year, they knew right where to put me. And I softened it up 2 clicks front and rear on compression, that's it. Didn't touch it all the rest of the day, it's awesome. Really stable, really predictable, which is what I wanted out of the Honda, just a little bit more predictability. I didn't want it to, if I come in really hot into a turn and hit a bump and have it just step out or head shake, and it didn't do any of that. It's just very predictable. I think they think I'm a little faster than them. It's always a little bit too firm and I have to open up compression just a little bit. But once I do that, I'm really happy. It gets that comfort that I want in a little chop. But I mean, I can slam into faces or over jump it and I'm fine. I don't even worry about it. The engine mounts, it's hard for me to tell going back to back, but I just tell you without going back to back. But I'll just tell you that it corners great. I never had any handling issues on this thing. So I was really impressed. From, obviously there's a lot more parts that I put on this thing, but from stock to this, big difference in terms of comfort for me. The chain, I really believe, kind of mellows out the roll-on because there is a bit of drag on that chain. These are designed to be ridden for hundreds of miles in the desert and wet and whatever you want, where typically in motocross we're using a lightweight chain that doesn't have any kind of rolling resistance. This has a little bit of that drag, so it kind of mellows out as the power is applied. It kind of smooths it out. I liked it better. I thought, man, that's something I might look at going to if I have a 450 that's just really abrupt. I'm like, man, I need to just smear that out a touch. The chain's an option, you know, and you get a lot of miles out of it. But the power, once, you know, now it rolled on really nice and carried forever. The thing will rev to the moon. It never drops off. Even when you're just up floating the valves, the thing's just holding. So really strong, good engine package with this. Brakes, clutch, everything on it, just money. I really, really enjoyed riding this bike. And you can tell in the video, like if I'm feeling comfortable, you can just tell I'm having fun. The tire setup is perfect. A little bit of wind on the track today, so we got kind of a hard base. And that's where I really like the 53. Either if it's super rutty, it doesn't want to climb out of ruts, that 53 front will just track. Or if I get down to a really hard base that doesn't quite have that soft, good grip, the 53 will bite a little bit better for me. Really zero complaints on this motorcycle other than I wanted to ride more. The bars, I will tell you that they do have a little bit of a swoop back or kind of down. It's a little different. So sit on some of those and feel them out. I had to roll mine forward to sort of get the positioning that I wanted. It went on really easily. Like I said, it was really nice the way they all came with the wire and everything. Super impressed with all that. Love the look of it. So thank you to all the companies involved in this build. I had a blast riding this bike, and I hope you guys enjoyed checking it out. If you're in the market for something like this, sort of an affordable build, I would look at these brands and kind of the way I went about this. Obviously, there's a few things that weren't necessary, but in terms of performance, this is a motorcycle I could go line up anywhere and race and, you know, have a great time with it. So thank you to everybody involved. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.